to my channel and welcome to week 2 of the No Sew November challenge. I'll pop the prompt list up on the screen here in case you're new and you're not sure what No Sew November is. It's basically a month-long celebration of no-sew journals, and this week I'm going to be making an envelope accordion journal. So I'm just going to be using some envelopes, and this is again a really easy method for making a journal, but this time it includes some pockets as well, which is always fun to add tags and things into. So this is what the base of the journal looks like in terms of how it is constructed. I've used some envelopes here, and as you can see it also creates some nice little like tuck spot pockets here that I've just put some tags in so you can see how you might use those within the journal itself. And of course it's double-sided as the accordion ones always are, but this is a way of making it where you have the top-down pockets rather than pockets at the side of an envelope journal. So what I've used to create this is just 3 envelopes here. These are parchment paper envelopes. I just wanted a material that would look quite nice to bind into the journal itself, but you can of course just use any envelopes that you have on hand, like just the regular like white ones that you use for mail, or even like junk mail envelopes if you wanted to do some upcycling. And these are the specific envelopes that I'm using. So they are C6 envelopes, which is 4.5 inches by 6.4 inches. So it folds to a really nice size, as you can see, for the journal itself. Those are the envelopes that I used, and I'm just using 3 to make this journal because I'm making these as mini journals for the week of prompts. You can of course, you know, expand this and use more envelopes if you want a bigger journal, but this is just what I'm going to use for this one. And also, if you want to see how I made the tag envelope from last week's journal, then there'll be a link down below to the playlist where you can see all of the No Sew November videos. And in terms of supplies that you'll need, it's really easy. I'm just using some masking tape and some scissors, so no extra fancy things required to make this journal. So what I'm going to start by doing is just folding each of the envelopes in half so that you have the flap of the envelope on the inside of your fold. And then once I have my folded envelopes, I'm going to open up the flap of the envelope here, and I'm just going to cut down the center, because what I've done for this journal is I've made it so that each sort of spread of the journal, so each of the double pages, it will have one page that we will fold down, and this will just be like a regular page, and then one side we have the pocket as well. So for the side that we're going to fold down, what I'm also going to do is just trim off a little triangle here, and that just helps with when the journal is folded, this little edge bit won't kind of get caught and get stuck in the way. But obviously we'll end up adding some papers and collage and things over the top of this anyway, so it doesn't have to be precise in terms of what it actually looks like. So I've just sort of trimmed that there, and that just means it's a lot easier then to fold this and not as bulky. And then for the top flap, now I have cut these off in the journal that I have done here so that it's just an open little spot here for a tag. If you want to, you don't have to do this step. You can keep this section here if you want to add like a little closure and have a pocket that closes, so you can keep this bit, but what I've decided to do is just cut this section off, and that just creates the tuck spot then at the top of the envelope. So each of your envelopes will look something like this, where you've kind of got this bit that we're going to close off completely, and then this bit where you have your pocket. So I'm just going to do this with the other ones here. And if you want to swap the sides that the pocket is on, you can do that as well. So you could have this side folded down and then this side be the pocket. So once you have your envelopes cut, I'm then going to just glue down this section on each of the envelopes just to create that base page, which I'm going to use some masking tape, and again we'll be collaging on top of this, so you won't notice or see the actual masking tape once we're finished, so you don't need to worry about how it's going to look, but you could also just glue this as well. But seeing as I'm using masking tape for everything else, I'm just going to make it super easy and just secure that down like so. And now what we're going to do is just attach each of the envelopes together. So again, just taking some masking tape for this, and you'll just want to cut it to size for how tall your envelopes are. Just going to attach it on this side here. So obviously you don't want to go too far over where you've got your pocket here, so you can still open your pocket, as you can see. And then I'm just going to trim this because the masking tape that I'm using is a little bit wide, so I don't want quite that much masking tape on the page itself. And then I'm just going to carefully line up each of the envelopes here and secure this down, making sure it's nice and neat at each of the edges. And then I'm just going to press and fold. So your envelopes will then look something like this, where you have your pocket here, you have your plain page, and then it folds over, you have another pocket here, and then a plain page as well. And you would just repeat that for, you know, the last envelope, or however many envelopes you're adding onto your journal, and then you will end up with something that looks like this. And there we have the base of this journal ready to work on for this week's set of prompts. So in this video, I'm actually only going to go through 3 of the prompts. So we're going to do 8, 9 and 10 because I had way too much footage, so I've decided to split it up. So we'll do this as a part 1 and then we will do a part 2, but it kind of breaks up nicely because when I was working on these prompts, so this one here is tapestry, I was building like the background and the base and like the foundations of the page. So I definitely took a leaf out of I was going to say book, but it was made of tags, wasn't it, last week? I took a leaf out of that book last week in terms of working with the prompts across all of the journal. So rather than just focusing on like a specific spread. And I think that helped to make it a lot more cohesive, and it was just like a fun and different way of working in this journal. So I've decided to adopt that for the rest of the pages because I really enjoyed the process of working that way. So if it's something that I'm enjoying, then I'm going to lean into it. So the prompt, like I said, for day 8 is tapestry, and whilst all of the prompts that we're doing I think are fairly like vague and, you know, open to interpretation, I think tapestry is probably the one that's the vaguest and maybe the one that's a little bit more tricky. I had to do a little bit of thinking about what I was going to do and how I was going to approach this, because especially with this falling on the day that it's going to be like my first layer for this journal, I was thinking about how I could work that into a more background-esque element, because when you think of tapestry, there's lots of different meanings, but you obviously think, I think at first, of like, you know, the big fabric, like sort of imagery and things like that. So I was trying to think of a way that I could include imagery but make it backgroundy and not have it take over the page, because there's going to be, you know, another 6 days worth of prompts that I'm going to be working in and adding on top of this. So I didn't want the background to get like too busy on day 1 and not have anywhere to go with this. I suppose I wanted to give myself the option of exploring other techniques or adding different things onto the page. So I decided to work it into my collage, and I also used these napkins here that already had like sort of floral imagery or like text on them, and I thought that that was a nice sort of happy medium between having a collaged layer but also having that softness. And I think the way that napkins blend into pages when you add them in kind of gave, I suppose, a bit of a like faux fabric look almost, because you have that texture. So that's the way I decided to do it. And I didn't want to cover the entire page with fabric, so I just decided to have it in a few different areas, but I made sure that it was almost on each of the individual double page spreads, if that makes sense. And I think doing it this way as well, I was also able to bring in a bit of colour to the spread. So I wasn't doing a completely neutral background. I definitely had pops of colour, but it was balanced in a way that I think worked for me on the page. Like, it was a lot more muted, but it was definitely, I want to say it was like brighter almost, because I think just because I didn't use any, like brown papers or really like heavily coffee or tea dyed papers, I think that kind of helped to lift the initial background. So I kind of had a lot of space to work with where I wanted to go. Now, for day 9, the prompt was thread, and I know this is a no so challenge. However, I did decide to add like a mini signature, a tiny little extra piece into this journal. I think just because I was looking at my paint sample journal, which, if you haven't seen that, I'll link the playlist with all the videos down below, where I essentially used a concertina fold like paint sample book, and I made that into a journal, but I did add a few pages to it. So I decided one of the ways that I would use thread would be to sew something into this journal, but I feel like because the base of the journal was made with the no sew technique, I think I can get away with this. Like I said, there are always no rules, and I just wanted to sort of go with where I was feeling like going with this journal, because I was really enjoying the process of working in this different format, especially being mindful of the fact that I had to work around the pockets of this page as well. So I didn't just have a complete free reign of where I wanted to, add my collage and my mark making and things. So I thought this would be a happy medium in that I've made the base with no sew, and then I've just added in a tiny little signature as a treat, I suppose, for this journal. So I didn't, add loads and loads of pages, but I think it definitely helped to add some interest to this format of the journal I was working in. And then I forgot that I'd taken the tags out of this journal, so I just popped them back in there as a reminder to myself, because with some of the other prompts, I'm going to be using the tags and working on what goes inside these pockets as well, because this week we have a journal where I can actually work inside the pockets as well and have some more interactive elements in terms of the tags, rather than just a flat base of the journal. So I also decided to add some stitch detail here just along the side of a page. I haven't actually done this in a while in my journals. I used to do it all the time. I was looking back on I think it was my July journal from last year, 2023, and I really enjoyed the way that I'd added the stitch details to that. So oftentimes when I'm thinking about what I want to do in my journal page, sometimes I will just bring out like my old journals, especially the ones from different challenges where I've done different techniques or tried different things, and see how I can bring through different elements that I like, because it's almost nice being able to look at the page as a whole and go, okay, well, I like what I did on this page, and just sort of like do a bit of a pick and mix of the best parts of a page that I've done previously and work them into the current page that I'm working on. So I added these little crisscross details here, which I forgot that I was working obviously on the envelope. So that was 2 layers of paper, and then I'd collaged, so it was 3 layers of paper. And so it was really, really tricky actually to be able to do the hand stitching on this. As you can see, I'm struggling with trying to get my needle through the page. But when it's not so tricky to do the sewing on papers, I actually really enjoy adding the hand stitched details to a page. It's quite therapeutic, and I think that it just adds a nice texture and bit of dimension to a page, and also in this case, a pop of colour. So I was deciding to really bring through the pink that was in the napkin and sort of offset the more neutral page that I had going on there. So I just did 3 crisscrosses because I was, like I said, I was struggling with doing this, but also I tend to do anything in like odd numbers, so in threes or in fives, just because that's like the visually pleasing number of things to do when you add things to a page. So I tend to stick to, 3 of this or 5 of that and have just an odd number. And so, yeah, I really like how imperfect they are as well. They're not even, they're not straight, they're not probably in the right place, but they just add a nice bit of charm to the page. And then, like I was doing last week, I just kind of then settled into adding different bits and pieces onto the page and just sort of allowing myself that space to not only just jump from prompt to prompt, but also to actually, once the balls got rolling with working in the journal, with just sort of going with it and thinking, okay, now I'm going to take it in this direction, and then we'll come back to working on another prompt once I've faffed around here with washi tape and adding that onto a page. So I just decided to add a few little pieces in different areas. I really like the way that it adds some different details and colours as well, and also the different patterns. So you can see here, this is where we are up to so far. And like I said, I really enjoy how bright and airy this is feeling. For the last prompt that we're going to do for today, it is ripple. And when I googled the definition of ripple, because I wanted to see like what sort of different images might come to mind with the prompt, it was talking about, just sort of like a small ripple in water. And so I wanted to have some gentle waves going across the page. And I was thinking about how I could do that on this page, but not get in the way of what I already had. So I always feel like I'm trying to work in that balance between collage and mixed media, in the sense that I don't want it to look too painty and too like art journally in that direction, but I also still want there to be some of that and not be like completely collage, if that makes sense. But I definitely think there's a balance, so I'm always trying to see how I can strike that, because sometimes I do add too much paint and then I'm like, no, that's not like what I was going for. So I was a little bit apprehensive with adding this for this prompt, because I thought, oh, I really like how this is going at the moment, and then I'm going to add this paint and I'm going to do this like, really weird sort of wave throughout the page, and I'm going to hate how it turns out. But I did enjoy actually adding it to the page, and I think because I used white paint and then I added like a hint of sort of titanium buff to it as well, but not so much that it was overpowering. So it was definitely more of a like sort of blended into the white acrylic paint. And I actually think that because it had that more soft effect, it actually complemented the page quite well. And I then came in with a little bit of mark making, so with some pink little like paint dots, with a brown fine liner, and also with one of my green Tombow brush markers in and around where I had added this sort of white ripple throughout the page. And I think it worked quite well to help it to blend into the page a little bit. And I think because I only added that like thin ripple throughout the page, it didn't overpower it too much. So yeah, as you can tell, I'm pleasantly surprised actually with this little experiment, and I really liked the motif that it created for the background of this page. And I think especially as well with it being a no-sew journal, it was quite nice to have something that from a visual perspective, it like draws your eye across the entirety of the journal, like throughout the different spreads. So I made sure to have it going in different directions and sort of up and down and across the page. And this one I did more of a curve, so it kind of leads you from one page to another, and then as you can see there, into the pocket. So it's really drawing your eye across everything that I've included in the page. So I definitely think, in terms of this being like a base and a background now for working with the next 4 prompts, which, like I said, I will do a part 2 video sort of in the middle of the week to show you how I've added the rest of the prompts onto this mini journal. I think that it's given a good base for that. So I hope you're enjoying the No So November so far. I'd love to know in the comments how you got on with last week's challenge, what journal you made, which was your favourite prompt that you worked on, or maybe which one you had a bit of a trickier time with, and how did you manage to create something for that. I'd love to know in the comments what you're working on this week as well. If you are working in the same journal, or if you're doing like me and having a little bit of the mini journal and working in something new. I'm really enjoying having something different to work in each week, because not only is it smaller and a lot more manageable, like I always say, if you've got a smaller journal, you can fill it faster almost, and it's kind of that sense of achievement that you get from that. But also it's nice just to be able to have that different creative challenge each week. So like I said, with this, like, we're going to start working with pockets and having the tags, and that's just something different. And then for week 3, we'll do something different again. I'm really excited actually for week 3. I won't spoil the surprise, but yeah, I am really excited for what week 3's little mini journal is going to be. But yeah, I'm just really enjoying this No So challenge, and I think it's a lot more relaxed than the January and July challenges that I've done previously. So I really like that vibe of it being a lot more low pressure. Like, all my challenges are low pressure, but I feel like this one in particular, we're really like chilling out and just creating in our journals. I'm loving as well seeing on Instagram everybody's posts. If you've posted over there and used the hashtag No So November, because it's a fairly new hashtag as well, I'm able to see most people's posts. So I'm loving seeing what everyone is creating. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed joining me for the process of creating this journal background here. And I'm really looking forward to working on this with the next few prompts, like I said, and seeing where I can build on what I have already created as a base for this envelope journal. So as always, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.